Hey, good morning. Hey, Mike.
Give me 1 second. All right. One minute. All right. Hi, Tom. Sorry about those technical difficulties.
Hey, no worries. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Nice. Thank you for taking your time to help us learn a little bit more about the P&L today.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
All right. It looks like we have about 5 people on now. So if you want to just give it a minute or two, maybe some more people will jump on and then we can do a little intro for you.
Sure. Sounds
All
good.
right. Perfect. Somebody's driving. I think they're at a stoplight. All right.
That's me, Mike. I'm driving. Chad.
All right. 10 and 2, Chad. All righty. Let's see. Let me make sure that I make you the host too, Tom, so you can share your screen.
All right.
All right, 1 second. All right. Let's see, did it make you the host? All right, so it didn't make you the host, but you should be able to share now, Tom.
Right. Let me.
You got that? All right, perfect. All right, well, I say we should get started, and when people jump in, I'll answer any questions for them and send them your way.
All right. Sounds good.
All right.
Let's see where we're at here. All right. Can you see my screen there?
Yes, we can see it.
All right. Well, good morning. First, I want to thank Mike and Heather for inviting me to come and share this with you. I hope that everyone will get some benefits from it. So as we go on here, I want to kind of go through a little bit of an agenda that we'll be looking at today. First, who is this guy and why is he teaching a P&L class? So I'll give you a little background on myself and why I'm actually teaching this class for you. We're going to kind of go through what a P&L statement is. I have a P&L workbook tutorial. So the workbook I've created, I've tried to make it as simple as possible for any agent, regardless of your skill level in Excel. And the tutorial is basically a step-by-step guide to take you through how to use the workbook. Then we're going to actually get into the workbook and go through how to set it up, how to utilize it. And then we'll end with takeaways and Q&As, but anytime during the presentation, if you have questions, you're gonna just unmute yourself and interrupt me, or you can put them in the chat as well. So who is this guy? My name is Tom Wright, and I'm with KWPR in Burnsville. And in my life prior to getting into real estate, I spent over 20 years in the call center management industry. The company I worked for, we had over 25 call centers throughout the country and Canada. And I was responsible for anywhere from 6 to 8 of those call centers. I would travel to them, and the tool that we used to manage these individual centers was a profit and loss statement. So we could, make corrections, very quickly just by looking at where we were with our profitability, looking at expenses, where we could make adjustments. At the beginning of 2015, the company I was working for was going through some reorganization, and the way it was going to be affecting me was not exactly the road I was wanting to go. And so I've been kicking around the idea of getting my license, and I was encouraged by my wife as well as Jill McNamee, who's in the Hudson office with Keller Williams, to go and get my license. So I did. So I worked about 2 years as a part-time agent. Just kept working at my regular job with the call center. And with the changes made there, I was growing increasingly frustrated. And in 2017, decided that I was going to jump in and go full-time into real estate. And so getting started takes a little while to get your business going. And so 2018 was a very good year for me. And it was kind of then that I realized, I'm a business owner. Why am I not using the tools that I used in the call center industry that they used to manage their business, which was a P&L statement? So I created a P&L statement for myself and began using that. In 2020, very proud to have been asked to be an ALC member in our market center. And my initiative is to get at least 30% of the agents in the office utilizing the P&L. So I took the workbook that I had initially created for myself, revised it, incorporated the MREA budget rules, and just simplified it so that I could share this with other agents. And I'm kind of good with Excel too. So if anybody ever has any questions about Excel or this workbook, just please let me know. All right, what is a P&L statement? Basically, it's kind of your roadmap. It summarizes your revenues, costs, expenses. And for our instance, we're looking at a calendar year. So January to December, looking at what your profit and loss is. You need to be able to, review that on a very regular basis to know where you're at and where adjustments need to be made. So you might recognize this this statement here regarding natural rhythm. There's a natural rhythm to business which demands that you examine your books at least once each month. I'll go as far as to recommend you keep a monthly budget, but address that on a weekly basis. Why? Because leading with revenue and red light, green light require you to stay in touch with your spending. And I'm sure all of you recognize that's from Gary Keller and the budget model in the MREA. All right, I'm going to switch screens here. And let's see. If I can find my screen, here we go. All right, can everyone see the guide that I have up now? Okay. Let's see. Mike, are you able to see my screen that says a guide to assist you? All right. Let's see. Okay, so this is the tutorial that kind of takes you through the P&L workbook. And we're just gonna look at this briefly because then we're going to jump right into the workbook itself. But the tutorial kind of explains the different tabs that there are in the workbook. And I set this up to kind of guide you. Any of the tabs that are listed in green are where you can enter data. Any of the tabs that are shown in black are for review or reporting purposes. So again, the tutorial takes you through every step of the way to get you started in the workbook. I tried to put explanations in for everything to make it as clear as possible. So again, we won't spend a lot of time looking at the tutorial right now, so we'll go into the workbook itself. All right. So as I mentioned, I've incorporated a lot of things from the MREA book. One of them is the chart of accounts. And I'm not sure if everyone is familiar with what a chart of accounts is, but it's basically a way to categorize your revenue, your income, your cost of sales, and your expenses. So within each category, such as income, residential income, there are subcategories below that. So you can designate, what listing income is, what your sales income is from working with buyers, any referral or leases. And so each category has a series of subcategories with it. So you can drill down and really get detailed information about your income and expense. So first, how many of you are currently using a P&L statement in your business?
This is Chad. We're using it to a certain extent, not as well as we should.
Okay. Is anyone using QuickBooks or any other?
Yeah, we use I use QuickBooks for my commercial real estate group, and we use Business by Design, which does a lot of the books for Todd Hagg's Market Center. So they provided the KW or MREA chart of accounts too, which is incredible. So I'm glad
Okay.
you're doing that. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, great. And actually, I've incorporated a tab for QuickBook users. So you can actually do an export of your expenses that you've already entered into QuickBooks and easily plug them into my workbook.
Oh,
So
nice.
you don't have to do double entries.
Say, Tom, can you share? Are you attempting to share your screen? I can't see anything.
What are you seeing right now, Jed?
I just see Tom Wright has started screen sharing, but I don't see anything on there.
Okay, let's see. Let me redo this here.
I wasn't sure if you were trying to share, share something with us. There you go.
All right.
Yeah, I can see it. Thank you.
Okay, you should see the chart of accounts now.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, all right. All right, so basically the first thing in your workbook is to create a monthly budget. I'm not sure if anyone is doing that yet, but this is definitely a huge advantage if you can do that. One of the other things I've incorporated into this is to be able to do a look at a variance, so you can see your actual expenses or your actual profit and loss versus your budgeted profit and loss. And we'll get into that in a few minutes. But as far as the monthly budget tab, it's set up exactly like the P&L statement. On these pages, you'll see these plus signs to the left. So these are the main categories that are showing right now. Anytime you want to expand those, you can just click on a plus sign, and now you see the detailed categories within each main category. All of the areas that are shown in green is where you can enter data. All of the others, contain formulas that will calculate anything that you've entered in here. So to start with, you can put your name up here. This is going to translate to all of the other pages as well. Put in the budget year. And as you see, I put my name up here, and so that's going to appear on every page and automatically update. So going back to expanding categories, again, you can click on the plus sign to expand, the minus sign to contract. If you want to expand everything, you just click on the number 2 above those plus or minus signs, and that expands every category. And then clicking on the number 1 contracts everything. You can also put your anticipated taxes in here. So if you know what your approximate tax percentage is, you just plug that number in, and it's automatically going to adjust what your budgeted tax is based on your gross revenue. All right. Next tab we're going to go to is where you can actually enter your data. So we're going to start with itemized expenses. And if you remember that the first tab I was on was the chart of accounts, which showed everything, income, cost of sales, expenses, etc. It's a great reference, but it's a little cumbersome to look at everything. So what I've done is just taken the categories that apply to expenses and put them into this individual tab. So just to kind of expedite things, I've got some sample data that I'm going to take and plug in here. I take my expenses, come back here, and just plug those in. And when we go over to the profit and loss statement, we're going to see those numbers now plugged in here based on what I entered in the itemized expense tab. Now, as far as entering that information, what I do is I have a business account set up, a checking and a credit card, and I will export those expenses and plug them into this book. So again, I'm not having to do double entry. The only thing I have to do then is just go through and categorize what the expense, where it should be categorized, I should say, within the chart of accounts. One easy way to find any of the category numbers is to use a find feature in Excel, which is just using Control F. And so if I'm looking for insurance, E&O insurance, as long as I spell it right, I can find it. And just click Find Next, and I didn't spell it right. There we go. And so now this takes me down to the insurance category. Next. There we go. So now I'm in the insurance category, and we're looking for E&O insurance. 69,200 is our category, and so that's what we would put in to categorize our E&O insurance, which puts it into the proper category in the P&L statement. You can also manually enter this data. So if I have, let's say I need to get gas in my car, and I did that on the 5th of March, it was $25. 66,300 is the category for automobile expense. Now, if I go over to my profit and loss statement, I should see that $25 entry in March. If I expand the category, it's showing it as a gas expense. Any questions so far on the entry of expenses? All right. We're going to go over to cost of sales. And cost of sales can be a little confusing, but basically, if you think about it as cost of sales is an expense that's only incurred if you have a closing. So that's going to include royalties, any commissions that you paid out. If you're a rainmaker, you're going to have team splits. Those would go as cost of sales.
Hey, Tim, sorry to interrupt you.
Sure.
Would transaction coordinator go under this, or is that an operating expense?
Transaction coordinator, you're only incurring that expense if the transaction closes, correct?
Correct, yeah. So it's different than like operations manager, who I pay all the time, but yeah, with the transaction coordinator, it's just per transaction.
Right, then that would go either under listing COS or buyer COS, depending if it's a list or.
Okay, got it. All right, thank you.
But anything like photography, marketing materials, things like that, you know, those are going to be expenses. Because even though they're directly related to a listing, you're going to have those expenses regardless of whether the property sells or not.
So these are your variable expenses, really, right?
Right, exactly.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. And let's plug in some data for cost of sales. All right. And we go over to our profit and loss. And we've got these numbers plugged in now for cost of sales. And then we're going to do the same thing with our income. We're going to plug some numbers in there. And now we're seeing a more complete look at the profit and loss statement now that we have some actual income in here. So I've got two different views set up for the P&L statement. This obviously is a month-to-month. I also have an annual view. So this is something that your accountant, if you're using an accountant, is going to want to see. They're not concerned about what you did in January or February. They want to see the full year. So this is something that can be shared with your accountant. Now, I talked earlier about being able to look at a variance between your actual and your budget. And so you can do this on a month-to-month basis to see how you're trending each month. You can select the specific month you want to view. So if we want to look at February, I just click the drop down, select February, and now I can see and visually see if I'm, you know, exceeding budget or if I'm, you know, over budget or under budget. So typically green is good, red is bad. So in this instance, looking at rent, you know, I'm $5 or 4% over budget. And, you know, once you get, you know, through January, you can take a look at the full year to see how you fared for that year. And, you know, with the whole COVID thing that has hit everybody this year, you know, Gary was, you know, explaining to everyone that, you know, this year is different. And with everything shut down, we really need to look at our expenses and, you know, cut back as much as possible. And that's what your P&L statement's going to allow you to do, is, you know, looking at the different expenses. You know, you can see specifically where your money is going, and if it's something that that you can cut back on, eliminate. But again, the profit and loss statement is such a critical tool for any business to help you see where you're at and where you're going. If you've read the MREA book, you've probably seen the budget model, which talks about the 30-30-40 rule. 30-30-40 rule is, those numbers typically are what $1 million agent can expect. I'm guessing, you know, none of us on the call are $1 million agents yet. So this is the best model practices, and this is actually the data that's going to be in the MREA 2 book, which is coming out soon. So basically you find kind of where where you fall, the closest category to your GCI, and look at what those percentages are for cost of sales, expenses, net income. And the graph gives you a visualization of where you're at against those numbers. So as you enter data into the expenses, cost of sales, itemized income tabs, just do a refresh on your chart and it will update these numbers for you. So you can see at a glance how profitable you are on a month-by-month basis as well as on an annual basis over here. And you can compare that to the best practices model to see if you are in line with those suggested numbers. Any questions on that? All right. Well, we're gonna jump over to the QuickBooks export. And so I know, Chad, you said that you're using QuickBooks. And so I've got this tab set up so that you can do an export from QuickBooks and plug those numbers in here. And let me find my QuickBooks data. Well, all right. Copy on that. We'll plug that data in and it automatically converts that data into the format that we need for for my profit and loss workbook. So we can just take this data then and copy it. Go over to our expenses tab, go to the first available line and paste that information in. Excuse me. And then the only thing we need to do is go in and categorize each expense so that it shows up on the P&L statement. Once you're done categorizing everything, you can go back to your QuickBook tab, click on Clear Data, and now you're ready to do another import next time you're updating your workbook. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yep.
All right. And I know not everybody uses QuickBooks. Not everybody uses the same bank or credit cards. So there's going to be different exports for whatever account you're using. I'm more than happy to, customize and add a tab for you for your specific bank or credit card. The only thing I would need is just a sample export from your bank account. You can mask the data, whatever, but I just need to know the different columns that are being exported so that I can convert that into a format that will work with the workbook. So does anybody have any questions or comments about, how you could utilize this? Do you feel that this could be a benefit to running your business?
Yeah, how often are you in this? So how often do you update the data?
That's a great question. And I'm in this usually once a week. So I'm updating my expenses cost of sales, hopefully I'm, in there every week adding revenue, which
Yeah.
is always the best part. But one thing is that, the longer you go in between making entries, the more overwhelming it can be. So if you can stay on top of this and do it on, if you can do it on a weekly basis, that's great. I would suggest at least bi-weekly, and worst case once a month. And look at your data, look at your profit and loss, and know where you're at all the time. As long as you know where you're at, what adjustments might need to be made, whether it's, I need more income, I need to cut expenses, whatever the case may be. But this is going to allow you to kind of stay on top of that and be cognizant of where you're at all the time.
And then could this be used for a non-real estate company too, if you adjusted it a little bit?
Sure, you'd probably want to, make some adjustments to the cost or to the chart of accounts. But definitely this can be used for any business. I actually use this for my personal, personal income and expenses.
Okay.
I've just adapted the chart of accounts and things like that to match with what I'm doing.
You must have an accounting background then, I'm gonna assume, right?
I do not. I'm just an Excel nerd.
Oh, wow. This is nice work. This is really good.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And yeah, I'm, just hoping that, this will be a benefit, whether you use my P&L workbook or some other P&L statement. I think it's just vitally important for any business owner to use this tool to be able to see how their business is doing.
Say, Mike and Andy, is this something where we could have them come and talk to the ALC as well? I think this would be really valuable. I don't know if they're on, but okay. Someone said yes, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, Mike said yes, definitely. Yeah, and then also Tom, I'm part of MAPS Business Coaching, so it's a new coaching group that Gary Keller started a few years ago, and it's focused on non-real estate related companies. Mm-hmm. And we do look at their P&L, however, not in this much detail. So I could see this as a huge value add in those discussions, or to connect them with someone like you. This is really. It's a really good tool, and especially for real estate agents, you're right. A lot of, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's got to be pretty small in terms of how many of our KW agents actually use this.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we did a poll in our market center in Burnsville, and not surprisingly, that number was very low. It was only about 12% of agents that were utilizing the P&L.
Yeah, so that was Heather that responded. She said she doesn't have a mic or a camera, so she said yes, that we could get you in front of our ALC as well. Okay. So do you charge a fee to kind of consult on this or provide this, or is this a revenue generator for you?
Actually, it is not. The only thing I do charge for is any customization.
Okay.
But I offer this at no charge to anybody who wants to utilize it.
Okay.
And
yeah,
so,
I'd definitely be interested in chatting with you a little bit more. Again, I'm 100% commercial real estate with KW Commercial, mm-hmm. But so there's a few changes that I would have in here. However, since we use a CPA firm that's ingrained in the MREA models, I think this would be great. Because right now, my wife, who's an Excel guru too, she kind of created something similar, but not as KW centric like this. So I would find a ton of value with this. So I can, I'll get your email and then send you a message.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right, and Mike, I will send a send you the workbook and tutorial. So I don't know if you want to post it on your private Facebook group, so anybody in the office can download it, and also provide my contact information, so anybody who has questions, can feel free to reach out to me.
Yeah, this is great stuff. Thanks for sharing.
Sure. Any other questions or comments?
I think Andy, are you on here too? Team leader? I think he logged in. I don't know if he's on another call though, but
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, if you can get Mike or Heather your contact info and that, all the data you said, that'd be great. And then
Okay.
I'll reach out to you.
Okay, great. All right. Let's see, as far as any takeaways, things like that, I would say, if you're not using any kind of a tracking system or P&L, start using one now. And as I mentioned before, getting the habit of entering the data on a regular basis, so that it doesn't become overwhelming and become a chore to getting this filled in and tracking your business. But other than that, I don't think I have anything else.
Thanks again.
All right, you're welcome. And I'll get this sent over to Mike so he can make it available to everybody.
Perfect. Have a good day.
All right, you too. Thanks.
Bye.